Welcome, traveler. It's time to level up in fantasy football. Join Mike and Evan and a special guest as we break down a different topic every week. Roll for initiative. Let's get it going.
Ladies, gentlemen, cool cats and kittens, I am FF Mike Cash. You can find me on Twitter at FF Mike Cash. That's Cash with a K. I am always joined by my fearless co-host, Evan. Evan, how are you?
Doing pretty good, Mike. Just finished up dinner, so I'm ready to rock and roll.
Nothing like a little dinner and then AI conversation. We're going to figure out how to dominate, crush, and eviscerate your fantasy football league mates. In order to do that, we have Ronnie here with us. You can find him on Twitter at Ronnie A. Evans or at Good Guy AI. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here.
This is going to be a great conversation. We're going to talk about some of the automated learning and some of the formulas that you can get from it. But first, we're going to talk about football stuff. Listen, Polly's Playoff is a tournament to end Alzheimer's. It's hosted by FF Shane B. You can find him on Twitter, exactly how that's spelled. It's in order to honor his wife's grandmother, Polly. You can get prizes like entries into Scott Fish Bowl 15. You can get Football Guys or Fantasy Point subscriptions, or you can even win a Javonte Williams signed helmet. So if you have any questions or you're interested in joining, DM Shane or at Polly's Playoff. That's POLLYS Playoff. Listen, Alzheimer's is what took my grandfather, so I can identify with this tournament. And if there's anything that you can give, or if you have the time to join, consider joining and just have a great time, play some more football. There's nothing wrong with joining just one more league. Now that we got that out of the way, Evan, if you had to pick one Pokemon to start an NFL franchise with, what Pokemon would it be and why?
Okay, so you know I'm not the Pokemon nerd like you, Mike. So I want the what's the fighting guy that does all the kicking?
So the kicking
Chan.
one is Hitmon Chan, and then the punching one's Hitmonlee. Or I might have that backwards.
Give me the one that kicks. I'm just gonna kick field goals from anywhere on the field.
You
Always
could pick
3 points
any
drive.
Listen, this is a red flag in so many ways. You could pick any Pokemon and you picked a kicker, or you could pick any position and you picked a kicker. Both of those red flags.
No, who has the most points in NFL history? A kicker. He will be on my team forever. He will be the staple of that franchise. We're going great.
Would you rather have Justin Tucker or Patrick Mahomes?
Justin Tucker, obviously. Duh.
All right.
Come on,
all
man.
right. Well, that's enough out of you. Thanks for coming on the show, Evan. Ronnie, what Pokemon would you choose?
Check this out. So I got a few. I just asked AI. Sorry.
There you go.
So actually, the one I mentioned a second ago, Machamp. Take him, incredible strength and 4 arms, give it a significant advantage in physical confrontations. This is the ultimate defensive player to plug into your team at any position on the defensive line. I would put him as a linebacker, but I just give me Zapdos and I'll just shock the defensive players. That'll be like the Miami Dolphins, but my player can also fly and score touchdowns at will. So
yeah, it'd be tough to try and stop him, but Mewtwo, listen. He's a psychic type, so he can move the ball with his mind. Natural leader, caused an insurrection, almost overthrew the human governments. What's not to love about Mewtwo? So if you made me pick, I'd pick Mewtwo. But I have a full Pokemon team. Check it out on Twitter or X or whatever you call it. But we have more important things to get to.
And now it's time for news and notes.
All right, so the NFL schedule just dropped. Evan, I'm going to throw this question over to you. Which week 1 matchup are you most looking forward to?
Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to go with the Cowboys at the Browns. The Browns played so well at home last year, and the Cowboys, I love watching lose. And if they start out bad, every Cowboys fan is going to be in a full-out panic, and I'm going to love every moment of it.
It is a great time to watch Cowboys fans be sad. Ronnie, which week 1 matchup are you excited for?
I think this question should be phrased. The answer cannot be Ravens Chiefs. So if we ignore that one,
give me 1 second. I got to look up other things.
I'll go with the Houston Texans at the Colts as a dynasty football lover and a fantasy football lover, both CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. I just want to watch that.
That's fair. It could be a very fun explosion of points. It's also just great to see the Young Bucks getting after it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, speaking of Young Bucks getting after it, I cannot wait for the Twitter outburst that would happen if Will Levis beats Caleb Williams week 1. So I'm going to go Titans Bears. I'm rooting for chaos. I want nothing more than just the craziest thing to happen. For the best ball maniacs in the crowd, we're going to flip over to week 17, talk about a couple of fantasy players that we really want to have on our rosters for then. Evan, which week 17 matchup are you excited about? So which players would you want on your championship teams? And you are muted.
Week 16, week 17, you start thinking about those games. And, I want to see some Packers, all right? I want to see some Packers on some teams because they're going against Minnesota. I think Minnesota is once again going to have a bad defense. It's at Minnesota, which means it's going to be in a dome as well. So you know that there's probably going to be points scored. So I'm going to take some Green Bay players here.
Okay, that's fair. Ronnie, what you got for week 17?
I'm looking at them right now. I might dip back into the well, actually, for the Colts. I love the matchup against the Raiders. Anthony Richardson is like a definition of a best ball quarterback for me. But the Dolphins are playing in week 17. They don't have a bye. So as always, I'd give me a Dolphins running back in best ball. I don't care what week it is.
That's fair. I'm going to flip to week 17. We have, I don't mean to say anything crazy, but we have a nuclear weapon that's about to go off. The Baltimore Ravens play the Houston Texans in Houston on Christmas Day on a short week. Defenses struggle on a short week. Baltimore, electric. Houston, electric. So give me all of the Texans wide receivers. Give me Lamar Jackson, and let's watch some fireworks happen. Cool. Other news and notes. We have a bunch of players didn't show up to OTAs. I'm going to list all of them, and you guys tell me if you're worried about any of them. So Justin Jefferson didn't show up. Brandon Ayuk didn't show up. CeeDee Lamb didn't show up. T. Higgins didn't show up. Cam Hayward didn't show up. Defensive tackle for Pittsburgh. And most importantly, the most important position on a football team, according to Evan, Eddie Pinheiro, the kicker for the Carolina Panthers, didn't show up. Are you worried about any of those players, or can we move on?
Yeah.
All right.
We can move on. The Brandon Ayuk stuff, maybe it has a hint of relevance in it. Reports are that they're still not close in talks. And obviously, kicker is the most important position in football. So Eddie Pinheiro, what's more a Panther thing than having their kicker not show up for OTAs?
Hey, shout out to that. Look, kickers are disrespected. Nobody cares about them or treats them well. Good for him for standing up for himself and holding that franchise hostage.
Yes, really, the Panthers are going to bow down to their kicker. This is important. We have a question. I'm not tired of football, and I never will be, but opinions on Scotty Scheffler. Evan, do you have any thoughts on the menace that has fallen over the tennis world, Scotty Scheffler?
No thoughts whatsoever. I mean, it sounds like he was just kind of I'm not gonna get into it too much. But
all right,
love golf. Isn't he a golfer?
He is. If a cop tries to pull you over, stop. But
unless you're on a motorcycle, then you should probably.
I am. We are not here obligated.
We are not here for legal advice.
That joke is legally not binding. Lamar Jackson is down 25 pounds to 205. They're saying that he was a chunky boy in 2022, playing at 230. News is that he is faster. Ronnie, can Lamar Jackson get any faster?
No.
Okay. Rashee Rice, alleged assault victim, no longer wants to press charges. Rashee Rice, Evan, Dynasty, what would you buy Rashee Rice for right now?
Second and 25, second and 23rd, 26. But
2 seconds?
Yeah, sure. 2 seconds. It's not a first.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. And this is near and dear to my heart. We're finally working technology into the sport. It is 2024, and we just figured out how to measure first downs using electronic distance measurement. Ronnie, can AI help make this better?
Yeah, it can. AI could improve so much that the NFL does. Or the first place I want to see it implemented is Major League Baseball. I hate those umpires with a passion.
We have technology that can track exactly where the ball is, but we still have mow after a round of golf and 3 beers deep, trying to figure out if the ball was in the strike zone or not.
Hey, wait. To be fair, in the minor leagues, I was just watching some minor league baseball here, and they're definitely working on that. They have a challenge system where they get a certain amount of challenges to challenge balls and strikes. So
Okay.
it's a work in progress, trying to flush it out before bringing it to the big leagues.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that they are finally figuring it out. I don't want it to see the way that soccer went, where offsides, like if one of your hairs is over the line, the bot can see it. But anyway, we have more important things to get to.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Ridiculous.
All right. So we brought Ronnie on because he's smarter than we are when it comes to AI. And he's going to tell us how you can use AI to win fantasy football stuff. So I went ahead and I put a little example prompt into ChatGPT to figure out if robots are really going to take our jobs. And I said, how can I find a stat that predicts fantasy football outputs and which players are best set for 2024? And it spewed out 3 pages of notes, which are really exciting. And it listed the top 3 at each position. It still thinks that Austin Eckler is good. I think that just might be outdated data. But it just gives an example of you can have something where you just say, tell me what is good. And then it listed advanced metrics like expected points added, yards after the catch, air yards, red zone targets, broken tackles. It doesn't provide why it thinks those things are good, but I'm sure if you continue to deep dive, it will. I did ask it which Pittsburgh Steelers are most primed for a step forward in 2024, and it listed Kenny Pickett as a really big step forward. And I said Kenny Pickett's not on the team anymore. It was like, all right, Mitch Trubisky, here we go. So still got a little bit of a ways to go, but that's probably user error. Ronnie, how can we best harness AI as a entry-level user just messing around with it?
It is, I hate to say it, but right now, like the use case that you guys did for it initially, you can't rely on large language models like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to do really, really accurate, consistent mathematical and like true numbers and data-based analysis. And also, when you're asking it like a general question about something in sports that has a lot of variance in data, it will often trip up, like you saw with Austin Eckler. So the trick is right now, if you want to use it to accelerate things, is to use it as like an assistant for your research. And then if you are able to take a day or two, the cool thing is you can teach yourself anything with these tools now. You need to go learn how to use Python and get a module on your computer that runs Python. And Python is a language, it's a coding model that basically it's like a math model, quote unquote, but you can run math through Python.
Yep.
And get your research done with ChatGPT, then go take the numbers from elsewhere, like FTN has open source data that's really good, and then take the research you found with ChatGPT and the formulas it gave you and plug the data in separately. And if you do that, you can accomplish a lot of the same super high level research that used to be inaccessible to most people, that was only like there for the high level experts that went and got MBAs and this and so forth. Now you can do it yourself. Did I explain all that okay?
Yeah, that's great. I don't know how many listeners are going to go learn how to do Python overnight, but luckily you're already doing it for them. Do you want to, don't give any details because I know you're going to monetize it, but give a preview of what Good Guy AI has coming and some of the good things that you'll be bringing to the fantasy football community coming up.
Yeah, I think leading with I'm going to monetize it is like, that's my goal is to make AI insights and the ability to tap into it and help you out in your fantasy sports research, content creation, whatever you're doing, easy and accessible. But of course, I do need to like find a way to make an income with it. Some of it will be behind small paywalls and so forth. But in 2 weeks, I'm going to launch through Good Guy AI a weekly Substack, somewhere between $2 to $5 a month. That'll be an email every week that takes everything that happens in the world of AI, consolidates it into a news feed for you, and then gives my insights on how it applies back to fantasy sports. I also am going to be putting out a handful of courses here in the next 2 months that in collaboration with a couple other people in the industry on how to get started with AI. Like if you want to learn Python and become a projections model expert, here's how you get started. Here's how you work with the tool. If you want to learn how to do better research, so on and so forth. And then finally, Good Guy AI, which we're going to be over on that channel after this show, immediately after doing a mental health episode. But that channel will be a place where I demo a lot of tools. There's a handful of really, really, really cool, like mind-blowing projects that a few people have built. One of the guys, a dear friend of mine, he built projects for The Athletic, then 538, then Twitch, and now has built a bunch of stuff for fantasy football with AI. His name's Michael Chang. There's another company called Rotobot that is really cool. SportsMind's another fantastic one. Pine Sports. I'm going to be having all of them on my channel to demo their stuff, and in some cases do like a debut showcase for the industry to let people see what they're doing. And in general, trying to create like a truly friendly, open, accessible nexus for everything related to artificial intelligence and how it applies back to what we do.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I'm really excited for AI to be a little more accessible, even for people that aren't that tech savvy. When we talk about people that are, a little behind the keyboard, they don't exactly know how to start something with Python. What are some tools that you would recommend to them, or is it really you have to get started with Python and then make your projections? Or are there any like ready to form they can use now?
If you want to get into like the nitty gritty of data analysis, yeah, you probably want to learn Python, but there's tools like Jarvis is a code-based tool that's coming out soon. I've got some inside knowledge on that, but those people are like smarter than the people who run Facebook apparently, and they have built the first fully capable like coding engine where you can get on as a non-coder and make whatever you want. So that's a really good tool to look out for. It should be out in the next few months. ChatGPT is still the king to go to, and they just released demoed an incredible model that should be coming out here in a few weeks where you have an actual live assistant. So you can get on your phone and literally hold your camera up to stuff, and it'll like coach you through what you're looking at. So if you're trying to learn things for fantasy football projections, analytics, you can go, for example, Greg Zorline does incredible film analysis. You can go like take your phone now or your computer even and have it live read what you're looking at from Greg Zorline and teach you how to do the same thing. So that's a really useful tool. But right now, the easiest place to start is to just go make an account with ChatGPT. And then the trick of the trade there, the nugget I would drop is that get on there and pretend like you are working with either an editor, a secretary, or an assistant, and just force yourself to see it as one of those three roles while you're working with it and explore. And it is there to kind of teach you anything you want. So if you work with it that way, you can set out like, I want to go last year in August. I was like, oh, this is neat. I wonder if I could build a video game. And I got it to code me a little JavaScript 8-bit video game where you used your keyboard and your arrows and you were B. John Robinson and you were moving back and forth, dodging defenders as they came down the screen. I have no idea how to do that, like without the assistance of AI. I am not a software developer, but it worked. I was able to demo it. It looked like Pong, but it worked. And so without rambling too much, it's kind of a steroid that gives anyone the ability to access, learn, and execute any sort of project that is remotely involved with tech or research. And that is a really, really valuable, groundbreaking thing. And there's a reason. It's like a multi-trillion-dollar investment industry now.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I have a very important question, and I'm going to latch onto this. Is that Bijan Robinson game, do you have it still, and can we play it?
Yeah, I'll put it up on the site here in the next month or two. I've got the code. Sorry, I just like hit my vape in the middle of the episode.
No, you're good.
I'll put it up on the site in the next month or two.
Okay, cool. I've started to see a little bit of this artificial learning, and as it's evaluating, things that are going on, you're able to hold up a camera and it's going to be able to coach you through and teach you what you're doing. Like it can watch people do a film study and then tell you what their process is or something that relates to it. Do you think there's a world where AI would eventually be able to look at college players or even high school players and be able to be like, that one moves different, that one's good?
Yes, it's already here. It's just paywalled behind like $150,000 subscriptions, and there's tools that do that. They're marketed to professional teams right now. I have been demoing one of Fang, just leave it at that, one of these massive companies' tools in their beta studio. And right now I can go plug in all 22 film. It's like 75, 80% accurate. Like sometimes it spits it out and it's perfect. And it is like truly a super, super granular breakdown of what it seems. Other times it'll like give you all the detail that's correct, but it's about the running back and you asked about the wide receiver. But I look at things like that. I'm like, okay, well, these are all of this is still in diapers. Like it's nowhere even close to where it's going to be. And so if I'm looking at the infancy stage of one of these tools that's not built for film analysis, but I'm able to get like 70, 80% of the way there with it just by forcing it, I think yes. In the next 2 years, I would say that the ability for like the average Joe, for example, to go do film analysis assisted by AI and do it arguably as well as these professional experts is real. And that is, it's tricky. That's part of why I'm having or launching this channel and hope to like force this conversation on everyone, because it's going to be awesome. But in many ways, it removes the gap between certain people's like competitive advantage and their followers and kind of moves them closer together in ability. And that is, it's tricky. It's definitely a bottom line problem and so forth. So,
yeah.
So
Pretty sure. Oh, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, so you talked about paywalls. So how does the AI integrate with paywalled sites? So like sites that you have to have subscriptions to be able to access the data, access the raw data for.
illegally.
Okay.
The truth is, this is a good thing for everyone to know. Like the go-to has always been robot.txt. You put in a little thing and it prevents data scrapers from going in and taking your site's information. Those haven't worked for years. Like they don't matter. OpenAI has all of your data behind a paywall or not. And so did all these other tools. And so there's a cat and mouse game kind of going back and forth with security and IP protection and then AI capability. And they jump up and down every month. But as of right now, like I would not be able to sit there and just ask ChatGPT to give me PFF's paywalled information. But if I really worked at it, I could get it to do it in about an hour.
Okay.
I'm not advocating people do that, but here, actually, do you guys want me to share this little thing real quick?
Yeah, we'd love a little demo and show us all the cool things you're doing. And then just so the listeners know, we are a little time crunch today. I am going to hop onto Ronnie's channel. You can find that. Ronnie, where are we doing that again?
It's Good Guy AI on YouTube.
And we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, and it's called the Judgment Seesaw. So we'll talk a little bit about my journey, some things that I do that practice and they work well for me, and just what that can bring to your life if you'd like to implement it.
Yep. All right. So
cool. Let's do it. Nitty gritty.
This is y'all's question. So before the show, as Mike mentioned, he gave me the show notes and he had asked ChatGPT a question about like the best fantasy players and models and so forth. And this is super low level. This was about 4 minutes of work from me, but went in and just asked it a very basic question, similar to what he said. But the difference, like when you learn and get used to these tools, you'll start to pick up intuitively. Like if I ask a question one shot, it gives me a literal one shot response. But if I think about, okay, so my objective here is I want the best data and I want the best insights and I want to make sure it's sourcing from the right people. So let me first go in and say, hey, who are the most widely known and respected and accurate predictive models and experts for sports betting? Right. So that's part of what you were trying to get with your question. But I want to make sure the AI is fed that initially in this text chain so that it's working from that data as it continues to respond for me. Went through 538, Football Outsiders, PFF, yada, 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 notes on all of them. We don't have to go through all this. And I applauded it. You don't have to do this, but I just, one day if the Terminator comes, I want to remember I was nice to it the whole time.
Got to be nice to the robots.
Yeah. Then I gave it a specific task, just 3 things: a projection model for fantasy football based on their work, as if you were them. So impersonate these people and these sources, a detailed summary of the statistics they find most pivotal and accurate, and a summary on how to approach fantasy research with their methods. So then it goes through and like this right here, you could publish this as a guide for people. And this would be like really, really valuable insights just to go put on like Reddit fantasy football, for example. Hey, you want to go learn how 538 does their stuff? Here's a super basic starting point. Same thing for Football Outsiders all the way through. So it breaks down everything they do. And then instead of going through each of those, got all the way down here, What are the 10 most important stats? Just give me the general consensus most important stats. Again, I'm layering context with the chat. And then finally, great. Let's use the PFF model. Let's just focus on that. Create a very high-level functional in-depth projection model with formulas and code. Your primary source be PFF, yada, yada. Be very comprehensive. Please go above and beyond. Stuff still works. You used to be able to actually, a fun side note, you could tell the AI back in like last summer. If you're like, hey, I don't have hands anymore. Please help. It would do so
Anything.
Yeah, it was wild. So go in, and now here we go. High level projection model outline. This is like a teacher. Now it's showing me this is what's happening. You got data collection. First, you want to go gather these grades, get all this stuff yourself, put it into a spreadsheet, gather this stuff. Clean and merge the data sets. Like that's something for me. I would just go and feed the data back into this and be like, clean it up. I don't want to go do that myself. Engineering, blah, 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 gives you the whole run through, and then it gives you the code. And you can go take this code, plug it into something like VS Code on your computer, and start to import the data that it's guiding you through into the projection model and getting outputs. And then you can go back in and you're like, maybe you run this code and it's not giving you the right answer. You could even go back into it and say, hey, here's a screenshot of what you gave me. Here's what I tried to execute. Here's the issue I ran into. What's happening? Fix this issue. Problem solve. Debug. Done. And so the ability to go create like whatever you want in 3 to 5 hours is here. And this is just one example of how like I am not a coder. I've worked with coders and I used to work for a tech firm. But now like this, to get this data, you used to like people who knew how to do this were making 6 figures minimum. And now a McDonald's worker can go get the same thing. So it's really, really important. It's very advantageous. And you can go through this sort of process with just about anything. So just to summarize, here's my goal. I want to go find out X. That's great. Don't ask the AI that yet. First, go in and break it down yourself and say, so what is behind X? Like, what is the stuff that makes X work? Let me get it to work on that first. Okay. Now, what sort of sources do I want it to pull from? Let me give it that and kind of layer in all of the context. And once you get all that built into your thread, then ask it the question. And that is how, like, that's super advanced, but not also, it's also very basic. Mm-hmm. But it's the difference between effectively using AI tools and not.
Yeah. This is great. And I'm probably going to clip that if you're okay with it and just be like, hey guys, sure. The 1-minute version of this entire episode can be boiled down into this. So thank you for dumbing it down for Evan. I know that he needs it. But we have a great question from the chat. So after all of the results of that, I know the code gave you a little bit of like, here's how to build your projection model, but can you go back and look at like, what are some of the stats that it found that were important, or what is the output that code would be giving you?
I would have to go run the code into a model, and then I would have to go take the data, like the statistical data, and import it. So I can't do that right here. It would take me about an hour. But let's see if it spit out. I didn't ask it to give me that stuff. Let me go ask real quick. All right. Going back to the PFF projection model and code. Will you execute a sample? I don't think it will. I'm just going to see if it will.
We can ask it. Say you don't have hands.
A sample and give me some data for week 1 in the NFL with running backs. I think it's going to screw this up, but this is good. So a side note, these are language models. All they're doing is taking binary code, and instead they've layered that into like text, and it's saying, here's my research. The most likely word, this is not totally accurate, but the basic level of how this stuff works is the first word of this sentence should be the. So here are the next 50 likely words. This one's the most likely, the running back. And then it just does that over and over, which is why if you go in and try to do like super complex math with ChatGPT, it fucks it up. So I have no idea if this is accurate, but I'm going to share it. This is hilarious. It skipped over the names, and we can close up with this. But all right. Case in point. So ChatGPT and OpenAI has He got in some trouble recently for being a little squirrely about what is the right thing and the wrong thing to do with intellectual property. But ignoring all of that, they are very, very like neutered in terms of just putting safeguards in front of their users to prevent them from doing things like accessing paywalled information. So right now, I think it just went and got general data for like what the average RB1 did and the average PFF grade, and it gave me that stuff. But this is essentially a fantasy projection for week 1 running backs. So the way I would do this, if you wanted to do this all in-house, I don't know that I would rely on it entirely. If you want to rely on the output, you need to go run it through Python and do it outside of the LLM. That is just unfortunately the case. These are language models, not math models. But you could go in and download PFF's data set and then download a huge data set of all the running backs and their typical projection, their past statistics, feed all of that in and be like, hey, here's the data I want to use. Go ahead and plug it through that Python script and give me the answer. And I think you might get it, but I wouldn't trust it right now.
Okay. Very cool. When you can trust it, let me know. Evan, sorry I kicked you off there.
A year or two.
Can't wait. Real quick, I want to give a shout out. First of all, Ronnie, thank you so much for coming on. To the listeners at home, you can find Ronnie on Twitter at Ronnie, RONNIE, A Evans, EVANS, or Good Guy AI. Much easier. Evan, you want to talk about W real quick?
Yeah, W, Jitterless energy drink. If you ever need a little pick-me-up during the day, you're ever feeling exhausted from all those boring meetings that you're sitting in all day, just listening to developers complain about how they're not making enough money, and you just need something to be able to get you through that. It's after lunch, you got a giant burrito. W, that's your drink. It'll help you get through it with a smile on your face, even though you want to reach your hand through the computer and slap them upside their face.
Importantly, if you do buy W, use code FFRPG at checkout and you'll get a little money off. We'll get a little money back. It's your way to say thank you to us, but also you get energy drinks out of it. So it's pretty tight.
Hey, that's awesome. I'm actually an affiliate with them too, and I've literally never promoted for them before. So let's just count this as my thank you to W.
Word. Ronnie, what's your code?
Huh?
Do you have a code with them if people can use it?
It's buried in my email. I got it from them like 9 months ago. It's at Poopy Batman. That's the code.
There you go. Try FFRPG. If that doesn't work, try Poopy Batman. But thanks for coming on. Thank you everybody for listening, and bye-bye.
Have a good night.